The massive nuclear device is finally lowered into the deep core shaft, and the battered crew races frantically to position it before the asteroid crosses the final point of no return. But as the technicians finalize the wiring, advanced calculations reveal a devastating, heartbreaking reality. The remote detonation system has been permanently damaged by the surface eruptions. Someone must remain behind in the frozen darkness to manually trigger the nuclear sequence. There is no alternative, and there is no coming back. The fatal assignment initially falls to AJ, who draws the short straw among the survivors. He quietly accepts the terrifying responsibility, knowing with absolute certainty that it means his death. For a brief, powerful moment, the long-standing conflict between him and Harry completely vanishes, replaced by a profound, tragic understanding. The younger man is fully prepared to sacrifice his entire future so that Grace might live. With the final countdown officially underway, Harry establishes a desperate, long-range communication link back to Earth. Across millions of miles of empty space, Grace's face appears on a flickering monitor inside Mission Control, completely unaware that this sudden conversation will be their last. The deafening noise of the asteroid's venting gas and groaning machinery fades into the background as father and daughter lock eyes through the screen. Harry's voice remains remarkably steady, but every single word he speaks carries the crushing weight of a permanent farewell. He tells her how immensely proud he is to be her father, how much he loves her, and how absolutely crucial it is that she continues living a beautiful, full life without him. Grace struggles violently to accept the horrific reality unfolding before her eyes. Tears streaming down her face, she frantically begs him to reconsider, searching out loud for another scientific solution, another possibility, or anything that might bring him back home to her. None exists. Harry gently ends the call, knowing he has said everything that truly matters. As the monitor screen cuts to black, the agonizing emotional cost of the mission becomes painfully clear to everyone left behind. Saving Earth will require far more than advanced science and engineering. It will require the ultimate loss. A quiet, breathtaking view of Earth hangs serene beneath the absolute darkness of space. High above the atmosphere, a docked space shuttle mission conducts routine maintenance work, its crew operating with absolute precision. The moment feels entirely ordinary, filled with calm, professional voices and practiced scientific procedures. Then, without a single second of warning, that peaceful silence is shattered. Out of the cosmic shadows, a dense cloud of high-velocity fragments from a massive, distant asteroid streams through orbit like a volley of kinetic bullets. Within seconds, the defenseless shuttle is catastrophically struck, torn completely apart, and reduced to a cloud of glittering debris. Thousands of miles below, on the planet's surface, nobody understands the nightmare that has just unfolded overhead. But the ignorance doesn't last. In rapid succession, terrifying, inexplicable impacts begin appearing. A meteor breaks through the atmosphere and crashes directly into the heart of New York City, instantly transforming crowded streets into raging rivers of fire and collapsing steel skyscrapers like houses of cards. Violent shockwaves race between concrete canyons while emergency sirens are swallowed beneath the deafening roar of absolute destruction. Deep within NASA, stunned scientists quickly realize these are not isolated incidents. They are merely the vanguard, microscopic pieces of something far larger. As tracking computers finish processing orbital data, calculations reveal a terrifying truth. A rogue asteroid the size of Texas is racing directly toward Earth. The projected collision will completely erase human civilization and extinguish all life. As pale officials absorb the numbers, every other human concern instantly becomes meaningless. Global leaders now face a countdown measured not in years, but in a handful of desperate days. Humanity has just received the worst news in its history, and the clock is ticking. Inside the high-security walls of NASA headquarters, blind panic is quickly replaced by desperate, hyper-focused problem-solving. Director Dan Truman gathers top experts from every scientific field, searching for an answer to a cosmic threat that current technology simply cannot handle. Conventional weapons are ruled out. Nuking the asteroid from the outside would only create a swarm of radioactive missiles. Time is bleeding away, and the margin for error is zero. Eventually, a radical, near-impossible plan emerges from the chaos. Fly 2 military shuttles directly to the asteroid, drill deep into its unstable core, plant a nuclear device inside, and split the rock into 2 pieces that will drift safely past Earth. The problem is almost laughable. Astronauts know how to navigate space, but they don't know the brutal, unpredictable physics of deep core drilling. The only people capable of operating the highly specialized equipment are roughneck oil workers who spend their lives fighting high-pressure subterranean environments. That realization leads NASA directly to Harry Stamper, universally recognized as the absolute best deep core driller in the world. Harry arrives at the Space Center deeply skeptical, completely unimpressed by government authority, and surrounded by clean-cut scientists explaining complex orbital mechanics. He calmly reviews their blueprints and points out dozens of fatal flaws in their sophisticated drilling design, asserting that their machine will fail the moment it hits real rock. The room falls into a stunned, heavy silence. For the first time, NASA truly understands the terrifying scale of the engineering challenge ahead. Harry agrees to help save the world, but only under one absolute condition: he gets to choose his entire crew. What follows is one of the strangest military recruitment efforts ever attempted, as eccentric oil workers scattered across the country are tracked down and informed that they might soon become the final hope for humanity. The perilous mission begins to take shape as Harry assembles his elite crew of deep core drillers. Each man arrives at the launch facility possessing a personality far larger than life, carrying a reputation for chaos. Some are completely reckless, some some incredibly stubborn, and some endlessly sarcastic, but together they function like a tight-knit family forged through years of dangerous, high-pressure work. Among them is AJ Frost, Harry's most brilliant but hot-headed protege, and, secretly, the man deeply in love with Harry's daughter, Grace. This hidden romance adds an immediate, explosive layer of friction to the high-stakes operation. Harry already deeply distrusts AJ's wild, impulsive nature, and discovering how serious the relationship has become only deepens his intense personal resentment. While global governments frantically prepare for a planetary emergency, these personal conflicts continue to simmer dangerously beneath the surface. The oil crew is transported deep into secure NASA facilities, where extreme culture shock hits them almost instantly. These roughnecks find themselves surrounded by rigid astronauts, elite engineers, tight military personnel, and endless rows of government regulations. The intensive training sessions quickly descend into absolute chaos. Protocols are completely ignored, multi-million-dollar simulation equipment is damaged, and frustrated military instructors struggle desperately to maintain a shred of control. Yet beneath the disruptive humor lies an undeniable, crucial truth that the top brass cannot ignore. These blue-collar men possess a raw, instinctual confidence under pressure that simply cannot be taught in a classroom. They thrive in lethal environments where a single mistake kills. Slowly, NASA's leadership begins recognizing that despite their rough edges and lack of discipline, this unusual crew may genuinely be the only people capable of accomplishing the impossible. Days pass in a dizzying blur of intense, brutal preparation. The roughneck crew faces punishing centrifuges, grueling survival exercises, complex zero-gravity simulations, and countless highly technical briefings. Many of the men struggle heavily with the absolute discipline required by spaceflight, creating a constant, volatile clash between rigid military structure and raw blue-collar instinct. Yet as the departure date looms, something inside the facility begins to noticeably shift. The constant joking grows less frequent, replaced by a quiet, heavy focus. The terrifying reality of the mission starts settling into their bones. Every single person involved now understands the mathematical odds stacked against them. They are no longer training for a difficult, high-paying assignment. They are mentally preparing for a dangerous journey into absolute darkness from which they may never return. Watching from the sidelines is Grace, who stands trapped in the middle as her father and AJ drift further into bitter conflict. Their heated arguments over drilling protocols conceal deeper, unexpressed fears that neither man wants to voice. Harry is terrified of dying in space and leaving his daughter entirely alone in a dying world, while AJ is desperate to prove he possesses the maturity to deserve her trust and respect. Beyond these private struggles, the rest of the world follows every single development with bated breath. Continuous global news broadcasts spread waves of severe anxiety across entire nations, filling homes with a heavy sense of dread. Families gather around televisions in crowded city squares, searching desperately for a shred of reassurance. As launch day finally arrives, the mission completely transforms into something far larger than a scientific endeavor. It becomes humanity's collective, desperate gamble against total extinction, carried entirely on the shoulders of an unconventional group of men nobody ever expected to see wearing astronaut suits. The fateful morning of the launch arrives beneath a heavy, overcast sky charged with global anticipation. Behind the reinforced security barriers, families of the crew stand clinging to each other, desperately trying to stretch out their final moments together. Grace and Harry share a deeply emotional farewell, both fighting back tears and trying to appear far stronger than they actually feel. Nearby, AJ silently absorbs the crushing weight of what lies ahead, exchanging a lingering, silent look with the woman he loves. Suddenly, the countdown hits zero. The massive rocket engines of the Independence and Freedom ignite with overwhelming force, shaking the very ground for miles and tearing through the atmosphere. The twin vehicles rise majestically through the clouds, carrying the collective prayers and the absolute last chance of humanity beyond the safety of Earth. At first, the perilous journey proceeds according to the meticulous flight plan. The roughneck crew struggles to adjust to the disorienting weightlessness of life in space while mentally preparing for the long, dangerous approach to the incoming asteroid. Then, without warning, absolute disaster strikes in the deep darkness. A violent collision with an unexpected cloud of high-velocity space debris severely damages one of the shuttles, breaching the hull and instantly killing several members of the crew. The entire formation is scattered, and the mission is suddenly hanging by a single, fraying thread. The shell-shocked survivors must adapt immediately, pushing their intense grief aside because there is simply no time to mourn. Every second lost now threatens the lives of billions of people waiting below. The vast, freezing emptiness surrounding the damaged ships feels more hostile than ever before, and for the first time, the surviving crew members directly confront the terrifying possibility that raw courage alone may not be enough to save their beautiful, fragile planet. The monstrous asteroid finally fills the cockpit windows like a floating world of jagged, obsidian rock and bottomless shadows. Its sheer, terrifying size is almost impossible for the human mind to fully comprehend, a twisted landscape of ancient cosmic violence. As the surviving shuttle attempts its treacherous landing sequence, unpredictable gravity wells and violent, shifting gas plumes transform the approach into an absolute living nightmare. The heavy craft slams violently against the uneven surface, bouncing unpredictably through thick clouds of suffocating dust and razor-sharp debris before finally screeching to a halt. The shell-shocked crew emerges into a hostile environment completely unlike anything they had prepared for in the simulators. Towering cliffs of solid iron rise up sharply in every direction, casting long, eerie shadows across the desolate horizon. Even the simple act of walking becomes a dangerous, frustrating challenge against negligible gravity. Worse still, the physical composition of the asteroid differs dramatically from NASA's optimistic radar projections. The rock is incredibly dense and laced with unpredictable pockets of highly pressurized gas, causing the carefully calculated drilling timetable to fall apart almost immediately. Harry and his surviving team push forward anyway, dragging heavy, specialized machinery across the jagged terrain and racing frantically against an unforgiving countdown clock. Back on Earth, a helpless mission control watches every tense development with mounting dread as precious hours disappear and technical problems multiply exponentially. The asteroid continues its relentless, silent journey toward the planet. Each new mechanical obstacle forces the roughnecks to completely abandon NASA procedure and rely purely on their decades of raw, practical oilfield experience. The mission has entered its most desperate phase, and the cold reality of absolute failure now feels frighteningly close. Crushing exhaustion and unimaginable pressure begin exposing deep cracks within the remaining team. Vital drilling equipment malfunctions under the intense cosmic cold, communication signals to Earth fluctuate wildly, and bitter disagreements erupt over how to safely proceed. Harry carries the near-impossible burden of global command, his eyes bloodshot as he constantly recalculates risks against a rapidly dying clock. AJ, utterly determined to prove himself and save the world, increasingly challenges Harry's orders, firmly believing that speed matters far more than careful caution. Their escalating conflict reaches a boiling point directly on the shaking drilling platform. Beneath the screaming arguments lies a deep, mutual respect forged through years of hard labor, but in this lethal environment, neither stubborn man is willing to surrender control of the drill bit. Meanwhile, the asteroid itself becomes an active, terrifying threat to their survival. Violent subterranean eruptions launch razor-sharp rock debris across the dark surface, forcing the crew members to dodge lethal impacts while desperately protecting their critical machinery. Every single movement demands absolute concentration. A punctured suit means instant death. Yet amid this terrifying chaos, beautiful moments of raw humanity still manage to emerge. Team members encourage one another through trembling voices, crack jokes to mask their existential fear, and flatly refuse to abandon anyone trapped in danger. These small, selfless acts of fierce loyalty become the unbreakable emotional foundation holding the entire mission together. Far from the warmth of Earth, surrounded by endless cosmic darkness, this ragtag crew discovers that survival depends not only on advanced technical skill, but on a deep, unspoken trust forged through years of shared blue-collar hardship. As the monstrous asteroid closes the final, terrifying distance to Earth, a helpless mission control receives increasingly catastrophic computer projections. The critical drilling depth has still not been reached, the shuttle's fuel reserves are dwindling to nothing, and vital life support systems are rapidly deteriorating. On the unforgiving surface, Harry and his exhausted crew fight like demons just to keep the drilling operation alive. Massive steel machinery groans and twists under impossible physical strain, while violent subterranean gas explosions echo across the dark, rocky landscape. The mission has completely transformed into a brutal, claustrophobic battle against time itself, and time is winning. Finally, after a period of relentless, backbreaking effort, the drill bit punches through the final layer, reaching the necessary depth. A wave of pure relief spreads through the battered team, but the triumph lasts only a few fleeting moments. Another sudden catastrophe strikes the site, threatening to permanently destroy the entire plan. Severe communication delays with Earth, heavily damaged equipment, and violently shifting fault lines create a catastrophic chain reaction of mechanical failures that nearly buries the nuclear device. Yet, despite the overwhelming horror of their situation, surrender is never seriously considered by these men. Every single person on that rock understands exactly what failure means. Entire cities, countless families, and unborn generations depend entirely upon what happens next in this darkness. The mission is no longer about fulfilling military objectives, it is about preserving the very concept of a human future. With the asteroid now looming visibly larger in Earth's night skies, the final, terrifying stage of the detonation operation begins under completely impossible circumstances. Then, Harry makes a fateful decision that completely changes the emotional heart of the story. Using his physical strength and drilling authority, Harry tricks the younger man, cuts his oxygen line just enough to disarm him, and forces AJ back into the safety of the shuttle's airlock, stepping into the final detonation position himself. This selfless act is not driven by simple military heroism alone, it is the ultimate, heartbreaking culmination of a father's protective love. Harry looks through the glass at his crying protege, seeing a beautiful future waiting for grace on Earth and understanding that AJ belongs in it. What follows is one of the most powerful, tearful exchanges in cinematic history, as two incredibly stubborn men finally express absolute respect, deep gratitude, and familial love under the literal shadow of imminent death. Alone beside the nuclear device, Harry stands in the absolute silence of the cosmic void, watching the fragile blue crescent of Earth loom massive in the star-filled sky. The final countdown reaches its last, breathless seconds. Around him, the damaged drilling equipment flickers beneath a harsh, dying light while the remaining rescue craft fires its thrusters, pulling away into the safety of orbit. There is no hesitation in Harry's eyes, no dramatic reconsideration, only a profound, calm acceptance of his fate. With a steady hand, he activates the manual detonation sequence. A blinding, apocalyptic explosion erupts deep within the unstable subterranean core of the asteroid. The massive thermonuclear shockwave tears violently through the ancient stone body, splitting the Texas-sized mountain into two enormous fragments. Across the planet below, billions of people look skyward in terror as the divided asteroid roars past, its twin halves missing the atmosphere by a razor-thin margin and drifting harmlessly into deep space. For a single, agonizing instant, nobody on Earth is certain whether the desperate plan actually succeeded. The silence in mission control is deafening. Then, the tracking computers confirm the miraculous trajectory. Humanity has survived. A tidal wave of pure, ecstatic celebration erupts simultaneously around the entire globe. Stunned scientists embrace, complete strangers weep openly in crowded city streets, and church bells ring out across nations. Entire civilizations witness the impossible. Yet beneath the overwhelming roar of relief lies a quiet, immediate remembrance for the brave men who did not return. The ultimate victory belongs not to powerful governments, but to ordinary individuals who accepted impossible odds and carried the burden all the way to the end. In the quiet aftermath of the crisis, a scarred Earth slowly begins the profound process of healing from the existential terror that had gripped every nation. Grand memorials are erected in major cities to permanently honor the fallen drilling crew, while the exhausted survivors return home, forever changed by the harrowing things they experienced beyond the atmosphere. The impossible mission has already transitioned into a modern legend, a historic story of survival that future generations will struggle to fully believe. Among those trying to move forward into the light are Grace and AJ. Their relationship now carries the deep, unspoken blessing that Harry never had the chance to give them in person. During a beautiful, sunlit wedding celebration, pure joy and solemn remembrance exist side by side in perfect harmony. Bright smiles finally replace months of severe anxiety, yet the memory of Harry's ultimate sacrifice remains beautifully present in every glance, every tearful toast, and every family photograph. Images of Harry and the lost crew linger on a quiet table nearby, serving as a permanent reminder to everyone present that ordinary, flawed people can achieve truly extraordinary things when confronted by impossible circumstances. The film closes not with the roaring imagery of global destruction, but with a quiet, powerful sense of gratitude for life, for human connection, and for the fragile blue world that was saved by a handful of roughnecks. What began as a terrifying nightmare from the darkest depths of space ends as a moving tribute to courage, family, and the ultimate willingness to give up everything for the ones left behind.